Thank you very much. It is my honor to speak to this highly intelligent and open-minded audience. Thank you for inviting me. I'm Katya Vladislavleva from Datastories.com. We specialize on high-end premium predictive analytics. And in fact, the sole reason for our company to exist is to eliminate all the possible hurdles for businesses to fully reap advantages of advanced predictive analytics. Completely eliminated. And we believe this will only happen if we not just eliminate all the walls and limitations of starting to use predictive analytics, but also translate the results from predictive models into actionable recommendations that people can try today, at the moment they get the results. So who we are a company, small company based here in 30 minutes drive in Turnhout, Belgium. We were founded in 2011 with a goal to bring advanced predictive analytics to the masses. We have worked for many different companies, very large corporations and also small companies. And we noticed that in fact all of them, all these businesses have in fact the same analytics problems that they're trying to tackle. And if we start from energy prediction and energy consumption optimization, if we talk about advanced manufacturing, the goal would be to understand how should we create, what should be the composition of our material, and what should be the optimal processing conditions that we will produce it to hit the optimal performance targets. If we talk about finance, the goals would be, again, build predictions, understand what drives the demand when we, for example, do demand forecasting. If we talk about health and digital health, how do we answer a question from all the sensors that we are now wearing on ourselves and tracking information of? How can we find what drives our well-being? Consumer products, business operations is the same. The point is that people are collecting the data to do something, to understand what drives their performance. And they want to also understand how to achieve the desired performance. We refer to this as KPIs, key performance indicators, within the constraints of their businesses. So why do we do it? Because there is a hope, and I think the goal of predictive analytics is this understanding. If we can measure something, we can understand it. If we can understand it, we can alter it. So the ultimate goal is to change things, to alter our process or system a little bit to get the performance that we need. So what is the problem here? Everybody is collecting the data, but we observe that in all companies, big or small, 90% of the budget at least is going into data collection. People are investing into data collection strategies and infrastructure because everybody believes once we have the data, everything else will be there. But what happens then? When they get the data, the budget is over, they need to report to the stakeholders, they hit a brick wall of not knowing how to interpret this data today, and there is no budget. And what is then the problem as we see it? 95% of the data remains underutilized and is just lying there on the shelves, stored on the servers. How do we change it? So people believe that more data implies more information, but this is not always the case. And very often, more data would just increase the level of confusion. While what we truly want to do, we want to filter this data to analyze what truly drives our performance, and we want to gain insight and control. Another thing that I need to mention here is we have entered an entirely new age. If we look at the last 100 years of economic history, we can look at the years 1960, we were in the age of manufacturing. If you owned the factory, you owned the market. Think about Ford, Motorola, think about let's say manufacturing businesses. Then we moved to the age of distribution, because if you owned a distribution network, you owned the market. Afterwards, we have moved to the age of information. Think about companies like Amazon and Google. If you owned the information up until 2010, Forrester believes if you own the information, you owned the market. But now, Forrester says we're moving to fundamentally new era altogether. You cannot own the customer, but if you truly understand your empowered customer, you will own the market. And this is where we're now all going. From the recent marketing summit, there are several quotes here on how CEOs and leaders are are pushing the digital innovation programs. But the most important one is on the top left. So Gartner was predicting that by 2015, 89% of the companies will be competing in all industries entirely on the basis of customer experience. And this is something that we need to keep in mind. Why? In another very good report of Forrester, which I learned from Kerry Bodine, the co-author of a beautiful book, Outside In, The Power of Putting Customer at the Center of Your Business. They give four tenets, 4 rules of succeeding now in this age of the customer. The first most important thing is the businesses should do to succeed in the age of the customer is to attain maximal customer intelligence through data analytics. So this is not an option anymore. You have to do it to keep on the train. Second is create customer experience excellence. Be there, be digital. So be there so your customers can find you, and embrace the mobile and multi-channel marketing. So the question is, the first step is business analytics and data-driven analytics. How do we do it? Where do we start? Another issue that relates to what Samir was saying, that there is a gap growing between our capacity to generate the data, measure and log the data that we think is important, and simply the amount of brains that can analyze it. We believe this gap is only going to grow. So in 2013, McKinsey was predicting that by 2018, we will have the shortage of 250,000 data scientists. This forecast needs to be now changed because the shortage is much bigger. And only in retail and in manufacturing, and only in the US, the shortage of data-aware managers would be 1.5 million people. How to change it? We believe we can only change it through analytics scale-up and automation, through bringing the analytics to people that they can do it themselves, become their own data scientists, without having to spend 8 years to get all the degrees in statistics and data science. So what I would like to do is, I would like to tell you, my message is, there is no more brick walls. The technology is there, the technology exists. Please go to the booths to talk to people about analytics. So what normally should happen in every business or industrial process optimization, we define our KPIs. We need to know what we are optimizing. If you want to grow bigger potatoes, you need to first know how to measure the potatoes. Then we go collect the data. Then we organize and process the data. And then, in fact, we should believe there is no wall, because the technology is there to very quickly interpret the data so that we can reap this competitive advantage, go up and act on the findings. And this would result in massive scale, in massive improvement in terms of break-even cycles for product commercializations and for new services. And even more so if analytics is introduced earlier on in the process, in iterative. When you decide what your KPIs should be, you need already to think about which data could you collect. So another thing that I want to mention is the most important thing, I guess, towards digital transformation is changing the mindset. And the mindset, your mindset will change automatically once you know what is possible, that there are truly no brick walls. A small example, we did a project for a very large company, world's largest birch plywood manufacturer. They wanted to implement lean, but to truly implement lean in this super complicated plywood production process. When we were showing them, when we had a leaders meeting, and we were showing them how in 5 minutes a program, a computer program, can go through 500,000 of optimal schedules, which take into account hundreds of thousands of production constraints, and we built schedules which actually reduced their work in process costs by a factor of 4, then I saw the mind changed around the table, because people, the leaders, started to think, I didn't know it is possible. But you know what? If this is possible, maybe we should go now and rethink the process, and instead of optimizing the volume we can produce, we should optimize profitability, because we have all the data already. And this is something that will happen automatically with everyone who will know that there are very little now limitations in interpreting the data. Another thing that I want to mention here is the different views of looking at big data. Everybody says about big data, and I think we're kind of past this hype cycle. I still believe that if we talk about petabytes of data, that there are only very few companies who will have this problem of handling petabytes of data. Terabytes is already a norm. But we can also look at the big data from another point of view, as tons and tons of small and medium files, where each one of them is small, but we have thousands and millions of them. And we believe that there are millions, we know, millions of businesses are struggling with this problem, and we would like to address it. Few words about big data. The most important, I think this is a beautiful report published by Tableau recently about the trends of big data. One trend that I would like to mention here is that the number, because there is so much demand and the world is finally ready, I think, for analytics as a service, one of the most important trends is that this self-service data preparation and data analysis tools are now growing. And we try to address this challenge because this is our mission. We want to remove the barriers. We want to bring advanced tools to people who are not trained as analysts. Just a few words of how we believe we could map advanced predictive analytics and machine learning into actionable knowledge would be a small example. Imagine I am a manufacturer. I have a chemical process and I'm purifying propylene. So I have a big distillation tower and I'm measuring all different things, temperatures, and as my product is being purified, and then at the top of it I measure the propylene output. I would like to optimize it. I would like to have as much propylene, and I believe I don't want to go and buy a new tower. I just would like to change something in my processing conditions to see where is my ceiling. So I have the data, I upload it into Datastories. I just need to, so this is a spreadsheet data, we're not talking about terabytes of data. I upload it to the cloud, I give my story a name, predicting propylene output. I select my columns of interest. So after I uploaded and validated the data, I need to say, so I care, my KPI is propylene. I want to know what drives propylene output, and I want to then optimize it. I want to make it as high as possible. Then you give the context, and then we output a story. So we believe that the analysis should be a story, an interactive narrative that leads the user, the data owner, through the process of analyzing the data as if we were sitting close by holding hands and telling the story of what happens. The long story short is there are 69 sensors, one of which is measuring propylene. I want to know how to optimize it. If I did a correlation analysis, the standard correlation analysis would have told me that there is like 47 things which are correlated with my output at 90% at least. With Datastories, we built advanced machine learning. We have our proprietary algorithms within Datastories, which is running on MATLAB. We built our models. We find out that out of 68 potential inputs, in fact, only 3 are important. And if you know these 3, so our algorithms here, you know that all the 68 inputs are competing harshly through for the right to be there in the models. And the algorithms is designed to deeply learn what matters and find the minimal number of things that matter for my process. We build the models which only contain variables that matter. We give the user, the domain expert, an opportunity to run interactive real-time what-ifs. There is a big button, maximize, the big button, minimize, and then you get your optimal settings, which you at the same moment, by the next morning or within 2 hours after you uploaded the data, can go and try in your process. So let me give you another story to finish the contest that we recently won, a sustainable manufacturing contest. We got an overall best prize for it, the Datastories team, with MATLAB under the hood for our modeling methods. So this was a very large, in fact, competitive, highly competitive hackathon organized in Belgium, where 82 people were competing, including very large companies like Teradata and Kairos. We want the most holistic approach, and what we did was the following. The problem owner had 3 big challenges. The challenges were give us the best predictive models for optimizing energy consumption, give us an interactive dashboard that is useful for us to monitor our energy consumption, and give us a wow effect. So give us something that we don't know yet. So we want the overall price because the whole point of doing predictive analytics is to just translate the insights into actionable recommendations. So what was the problem? We got the process data. There was 320 gigabytes of data, more than 1,200 sensors from a plant. So we are producing a certain product. We are measuring, this is actually a good example of the Internet of Things. So we have 1,200 things which are all measuring a certain process. We have 12 energy consumption variables. And what we want to do is we want to understand what drives our energy consumption and what can we change in our process to keep it at the lowest possible level without obviously switching the plant, because we want to produce as much yields of a product. So what we did is we analyzed all, the approach was the following. We collected, and this in fact, a very hairy problem. All this data came in different files. So you have 1,200 files plus 12 files for energy consumption. You need to do it and do it fast. So we collected all the measurements, we processed, organized, and aggregated the data. We had to align it, so to turn it into one big table to be able to apply machine learning. We ran predictive modeling, identified what matters. Only very few inputs, sensors, in fact, were sufficient to predict energy with reliable accuracy, and deployed predictions in a dashboard. So we built nonlinear predictive models, which led us to a dashboard, which we made innovative because we also provide interactive what-if scenarios, I'll show you. And it allows you to maximize, so in real time, try to, for a knowledgeable person, interact with your production process to reduce the energy consumption. Let's look at it. So lots of data, we organized it in one big table. We did the analysis of the health of this data, and we found out that in fact 50 sensors, most of the time they were not measuring things. We eliminated them, which also reduced the number of inputs to only 1,180. We looked at the data distributions, we looked at the correlations, we checked what is the mutual information content between things. We built this interactive explorer tools, which are a part of Datastories, which help a knowledgeable person see how things are connected to each other in my process. Because once you have 1,200 things, it becomes a big, hairy black box. You don't want to look at 1,200 things at a time. The modeling process is classic. Organize all your data into one table, define your KPI, apply advanced machine learning, and then see what drives your consumption. And so we did. Automatically, in just 2 iterations, we plugged in all this data and learned that, in fact, only 5 sensors are sufficient to predict the energy consumption with accuracy higher than 97% R-squared. So what did it give us? There were 2 regimes out of 1,200 things. There is only 5 important. We gave these 5, and we have these tools to run interactive what-if scenarios to understand what would change in my energy consumption if I slightly vary my inputs. We also built a dashboard with a focus only using open source tools on top of, so there are what-if scenarios by Datastories, which are built in MATLAB, but now we're running in a JavaScript. There are JavaScript libraries, and what is unique about this dashboard is that it doesn't only allow you to monitor things as they come. You watch, instead of, you know, with some dashboards they tell you, and by the way, you can select, they give you a drop-down list of 1,200 things, and anything you want, you can select, and we will show you all the information about the sensor. You probably don't want to look at those things in the drop-down menu of 1,200 things. So we believe we only need to show what truly matters. So models tell us these 5 things matter and nothing else. You can also go and drill down and check what drives the drivers, because you ultimately want to find out which variables from which you can control can you vary slightly to minimize, in this case, minimize the KPI. The only thing that matters here is that we reduced the number of potential sensors to only 5 per regime. The accuracy was good. The time it took us for the full hackathon, including everything and driving to Brussels and the meetings, was 71 hours. It was quite fast, including data processing of these 1,200 files, putting it together. We did use MATLAB, of course. We used Python for early pre-processing of the data, because in Datastories, Python is also running our backend. JavaScript and HTML5. What I would like to talk about here is what were the benefits of using MATLAB and why we are MATLAB adepts. First of all, it's of course super fast implementation. It took us quite a while to build, so we built the validation of the data all in Python at the back end. It took us several months truly to do it well and to handle all the edge cases. Then we decided then we thought, okay, we probably need to have also a product for the MATLAB audience, and we need to do it as a MATLAB package. And then it took us 2 weeks to do, actually at most 2 weeks, less. Everything happened within 5 weeks, and then you do testing and edge cases, to copy the data processing and preparation methods as in Datastories. Reliable deployment, the flexibility, what we truly love and now are joyfully exploring is how can we, so to deploy it, if we have the core in MATLAB, then we can deploy it either as a MATLAB package, we can also compile it and deploy it as a standalone, and we can also deploy it on a cloud. And this is our goal. We want to run Datastories on the cloud, highly scaled. Code protection was for us very important because this is the core, this is the blood and brains of Datastories. We want to protect it, which is much easier and actually possible in MATLAB rather than in Python. And what we also like is, again, this is the benefit of having an ecosystem. If you have it as a MATLAB package, people can integrate it into their own workflows. Maybe they have their own modeling engines that they have to use because the process requirements are requiring so. Then they would only need to know what drives the KPIs and then integrate it into their workflows. What is also really cool is plug-and-play Hadoop integration. I am really looking forward for Spark integration, and then we have it all. What I forgot to mention, another cool thing is that MATLAB handles both of these situations, the world of gazillions of small data files, all big pile of small data, and the big data. For us, what was good about the hackathon is it was just a perfect way to demonstrate the product. We were building the product, we believed it was better than anything else on the market. We had an opportunity to test it in the hackathon, and we won it. How much better can it be? It also gave us the project with a problem owner, which has a very high business value. Why? Because if a large company, a multinational company, can reduce the energy consumption in a process by just 1 to 2 to 3%, it will immediately result in millions of euros of savings on a yearly basis starting from the first year. I think this is the end of my story. I'm inviting all of you to come to visit us. This is the Saint-Tropez of Turnhout. We go there for lunch every day, really close by. And I think the last takeaway message would be, I truly call you to start thinking creatively about what your ultimate business goals would be. What we see, I think, and can be, in my opinion, this is somewhat a mistake or a limiting factor. When people want to employ analytics, they come and they think, they listen to what analytics can do, and then they try to map it on what would be useful from all these opportunities that analytics can do. What I would like you to think about, what is your ultimate goal, irrespectively of anything else? So what would give you the biggest bang for the buck now for your business or for your process? Then talk to people who have done it with data, and then they will map you the optimal path that will lead you much faster to where you want to be, hitting exactly your KPIs. Thank you. I think I'm done.